Good evening. I'm Jonathan Higgins,
I'm Rich Carlson.
and we are the Scanner Guys, and we are live this evening from a different location from me. I'm in
Yep.
Pennsylvania. Rich, you're still in Arizona. So, how things going with you tonight?
Oh, it's getting nice and cool out there. It's only 93 today.
93. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot cooler for you because you're used to the 100 and some odd degrees there.
Oh yeah, it's 20 degrees cooler than it has been for the last month. So, but it's getting nice, and next week it'll be down into the 80s, and I can dig that
Yeah,
patio weather.
patio weather and then going for walks. I know where you live is very friendly for taking those
Yeah.
evening walks.
Oh yeah, you betcha. I do the walks late at night right now, like 9 or 10 o'clock, because it gets cooler out there. But now I'll be able to take pretty soon. I'll be able to take walks during the daylight without any problem.
Yeah. And so we've got a really cool show tonight. We're talking about what a lot of us do. We'll typically take our scanner with us for traveling.
Hmm.
And that's something that a lot of us will do. And we really enjoy it. So let's take a look at our slideshow presentation this evening. So we want to make sure that you subscribe to our website and, of course, to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do it right now. If you're joining us for the first time on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We would love to see you subscribe to our channel. So make sure you do that right now. And looks like we've got another great train aficionado show
Yep.
coming up. Next show will be Monday, November the 2nd, the day before Election Day. Is a great way to remember it. 8 p.m. Eastern
Yep.
Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. We're going to be talking about trains and movies. That's going to be quite
Yes.
interesting. So we're going to talk about a lot of that during the show. So that should be a lot of fun. If you missed our last show, we talked about rail fanning with a scanner. So, all types of cool tips on how to rail fan with a scanner certainly is something that you can certainly learn a lot about. Uh, using a scanner while rail fanning. We went over
Yeah.
kind of a lot of the jargon. We went over our top picks for scanners. We even rated them as well.
Yeah, we really enjoyed that show because it brings in both of the stuff that we are really into, scanners and trains. And what a perfect marriage, the scanner hobby with the railfan hobby. You can't do one without the other,
Yeah,
and
so
enjoy yourself. So
definitely the video is posted on the Train Aficionado YouTube channel. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely hop over to that channel once you're done watching us, and definitely subscribe to their channel as well. So we've got this brand new product, Rich, that we've recently acquired, and look at it. I mean, it's putting that cup holder
yeah.
to good use.
Yeah, this is called the cup call, and we also have the desk call, which is the same thing except it sits on the desk, and it's ideal for a handheld scanner. The one for the car fits in the cup holder, and it has a base that you pop in there, and you turn that knob. You see the yellow sticker on the picture on the
Hmm.
right. You turn that knob, and it tightens it onto that cup holder so it doesn't rattle around. And I used that on my trip up to Flagstaff this weekend, and it worked perfectly. And I've got my 436 on that one picture, and my 325 or the 125 on the one on the right, and it really, really works great. And you can also use it for a cell phone, but we don't care about cell phones. We care about scanners.
Yeah, that's for sure, and that's definitely a good thing to be able to add another radio to that as well.
Yeah.
So that's going to be something that I think a lot of our viewers are actually going to want to take a look at.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're looking for something like that, go to scannermaster.com, and it's under the accessories and mounts for the vehicle, or mounts for the cup call. For the desk call, it's under mounts for the home. So it's a really great accessory. And if you're using handheld scanner in a vehicle, you're going to want one of these.
Yeah, so the desk mount, I actually have one at my studio at home, and
Mm-hmm.
I was able to put on several different radios on there. Even my cell phone, it's got a little bit of a weighted base, So
Yeah.
it'll be stable on your desk. I mean, it's great to be able to prop that scanner up, and you can angle it just the way you see Rich's
Yeah.
photos.
Hmm.
You're able to angle it or tilt it to your liking, which is great.
Yeah, you can rotate it, you can tilt it, you can put it, forward, backwards, and really get it so that the scanner is going to face you. Or if you're on the passenger side, when my wife's driving, I'll turn it to face me, so because she doesn't care, and it's great because you can move to any angle. There's little indents, so it stays where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, some really cool stuff there. So definitely check that out on our website, scannermaster.com. The cup call and the other one as well.
Desk call, yep.
Desk call. All right, so we've got a lot of scanner mobile hints. We've covered some of these states that you can travel through with your scanner, or where mobile radios require you to have permits.
Yeah.
So this is interesting.
Yeah, there are some states that have prohibitions. Make sure you know what the laws are in the states that you're going to be traveling to or through. And the ones that I know of off the top of my head, Indiana requires a permit or ham radio license. New York has got restrictions. I'm not 100% positive what they all are. Florida has some pretty strict laws as well, so make sure you have a permit or a ham radio license. Kentucky is very strict in some areas, so make sure you're good there. And Minnesota, they do require permits, although it's not that well enforced up there. Michigan used to require permits, but they no longer do. They've abandoned that law, so it's now perfectly legal to have a scanner in a car in Michigan. The one thing to remember where it's illegal, what is illegal in every state, is to use a scanner in the commission of a crime. And there's no defense for that in any state.
Yeah, and I would hope that our audience wouldn't be the type that would be doing that.
No, absolutely not.
So the other thing that we can take a look at is a very key thing. We have a ton of these database scanners,
Yeah.
like the Home Patrol 1, the Home Patrol 2, the SDS 100 and 200. We have the TRX 1, TRX 2. We have the 436 and 536. Before you head out on this road trip, make sure you update the database. Also, check the firmware. Make sure the firmware is up to date, because if you haven't updated the database in a long time, you may find, why am I not receiving, such and such? There may have been a frequency change. There may have been, they may move to a new system. So many different things that it could be.
Yeah, absolutely. And the firmware, the other thing you want to check is to see if anybody that you want to listen to are using DMR, NXDN, or ProVoice, and before you go as well. So you can arrange to get those updates on if you've got a scanner capable of that. So there are some states, especially in the Southeast, that use NXDN and DMR for police and fire. So check those areas. Typically, those are going to be at the county or local level versus the state level. But check those areas. If you're going to stay, you got a cabin in the mountains in Tennessee or something like that, make sure that county doesn't use NXDN or DMR.
Yeah, and the other thing that we mentioned too, if you're traveling and you're just driving through states and you're doing a lot of highway traveling, we recommend that you program in just the highway patrol or state police. So when you're traveling through these areas, when you create this favorites list, it's just state police only. You're not going to be inundated with all this local traffic that may not pertain to your travel. You're basically wanting to listen to state police or highway patrol. They're going to be able to, you're going to be able to hear things up. There's an accident up ahead, or there's something going on. They're blocking lanes, or whatever it may be. It's going to be helpful to you to be able to just listen to the state police or highway patrol through those drive-through states. And of course, when you get to your destination, you're going to want to be able to listen to some of that local stuff.
Yeah, it's and if you've got a zip code scanner, just remember the favorites list. I'm sorry, not the favorites list, but the zip code, the full database doesn't differentiate between state police and local and county police. That's something that I've kind of pushed in the database updates and stuff like that, but it's going to be pretty difficult to add that level. So it doesn't look like that's ever going to happen. So favorites lists are really going to be helpful for you if you're if you're traveling through the state. So you can put just the state police, because most of the time you don't care about what's going on in the towns. Barry wrote that he had his 436 hooked up to his GPS. It worked great when he drove from Delaware down to North Carolina. The trick was deciding what service types to turn on or off or leave on. So that's exactly right. You want to turn on the service types of the stuff that you want to listen to. Just remember, though, that the state police just is part of the law group, and you're still going to hear the county and local stuff. And use the avoid button if you really don't care what's going on at the local or the county level. Lock those channels out. Avoid those channels as you go, so that you don't stall your scanner on that kind of stuff.
And remember, the thing is with avoid, if you do a single tap, that means that the scanner will avoid that channel until it's power cycled again, and then that channel will be restored. If you do a double tap on the avoid, that means it's going to be permanently removed from the scanning.
Right. Now, remember, permanent is not permanent. Permanent means it will no longer be scanned when you turn the radio off, but you can go back and unavoid that channel later. So it doesn't delete it from the radio. I had a customer call me once, was all panicked because they deleted the channel from the radio. What'd you do? Well, I hit that avoid button twice.
It's the same functionality as lockout. Yeah. So let's say you have a conventional bank scanner and you lock out channel number 23. Yep. When you scroll through to channel 23, you're going to see the LO icon on the screen. It's not deleted. It just is locked out. So you could go to channel 23, hit that lockout button and unlock it. Same type of thing with these radios as well.
Well, I explained it to her. It's just like turning off the light. The light bulb is still there. It's just not working right now. So you just go in and turn the light on, or unavoid it by hitting the avoid button when you go back to that channel. And she was so happy. She was so worried that she had erased that channel from her radio.
Yeah, no, you just avoided it. You didn't erase it.
So the next thing you want to do is pre-program your favorites lists or your banks, depending on what type of scanner you've got, for the stuff that you're most interested in. Railroads, you and I are really into the railroads. Yep. I like aviation stuff. So, and other interesting stuff. There might be some nationwide channels, some CB or GMRS or other stuff like that. So pre-program those into a bank or into a favorites list and leave those going while you're driving.
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing that's very important, you're traveling to areas that you're not familiar with. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you cover the radios to protect them against sun and thieves. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you kind of conceal those radios, because you don't know where you're traveling to, and you don't know, what's out there. So you want to make sure that you kind of, if it's not seen, a thief is not gonna want it.
That's right, and I do that. And being living here in Arizona, I keep towels in the car to cover my radios because otherwise they would melt with the sun. And what I did is I went to Walmart or Target or someplace like that, and I found towels the right size that matched the color of my interior of my car. And I draped that over there, and you just think it's part of the seat.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too, is, that's what I use in my vehicle. I have a towel that's draped over the radios, for two reasons, to protect them, and also, to deter thieves. I mean, it's certainly a thing to keep in mind. Now, if you're doing a lot of portable radios, number 6 is definitely, you want to take that out of the car. If it's a portable radio, it's easy access. They can break the window, grab the radio, and run. With a mobile radio, it's a little bit more, tricky to do it, but still, you want to be aware of it. So bring those radios in at night.
Crime prevention, one of the biggest things you can do for crime prevention is make it as difficult as possible to steal from you, so that the bad guy goes someplace else. And let him take the radio detector from your neighbor's car and bring your radios in. And if he doesn't see them, there's nothing for him to steal.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They're gonna want it if they can see it.
Yeah. And then the next thing is, if you're in a motel or parked anywhere, actually, park under a light at night or inside of the front desk. You're less likely to be victimized from a burglary from your auto if you're under light where they can see you see the vehicle real easy, or in sight of the front desk.
That's for sure. All right, some mobile scanner hints. This is a question that we get a lot. Number one, whole mount antennas, NMO mount antennas, basically work better than mag mounts and trunk lip mounts. The other thing, coming from the Northeast, where they use salt a lot on the roads, having those connections inside the vehicle will prevent salt damage. When you're using a mag mount or a trunk lip mount, a lot of times the salt can get in there and cause all types of issues with your connections. And you're wondering, why is my reception deteriorating all of a sudden?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So whole mount antennas work best. Trunk lips work better than mag mounts, and mag mounts work better than nothing. So they have their place. I love that little Spectrum Force mag mount that we sell. They're ideal. I buy a new car every 2 or 3 years, and I leave those. I keep those so I can have a scanner antennas while I'm waiting for my radios to be installed, my antennas to be installed. If you're driving a leased car or a rental car, they're ideal for that. If you have spousal issues where the spouse won't allow you to drill holes in your vehicle, then see an attorney. You can get a divorce. I think that is grounds for divorce in most states. But if not, then a mag mount might be your solution there.
And that's for sure. Next one here. We get this question a lot. We have customers that have more than one scanner and they want to put more than one antenna. Keeping those antennas as far apart from one another as possible, especially with a lot of you out there, you have your scanner and you have your ham radio. You want to keep those antennas far away from each other so they're not creating any damage or problems.
Yeah, if you got 2 scanner antennas that are this far apart, it's not that big a deal. But if you've got a scanner antenna and a 2-meter antenna right here, you're going to have problems. Put the scanner antenna way over here and put the 2-meter antenna way over here, as far apart as possible, as practical. In my vehicle, it wasn't real practical to put them more than, I guess they're about 4 feet apart, but I put them as far apart as I could. If you've got a big full-size van, you can have them separated by 6 or 8 feet, and you're great. But if you've got like I've got a minivan, but it's also got a moonroof and an air conditioner and an entertainment center in the roof, I was kind of limited on where I could put my antenna mounts. And as we see later, some people have got some pretty creative mounting for their antennas.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've got some really good pictures coming up later in the broadcast, so keep it right here. If you have multiple scanners, you may want to consider a multi-coupler by Strasberg. Really phenomenal company, when it comes to multi-couplers. And this is a great thing, to be able to put in that multi-coupler and use that really good antenna that you have on the roof with multiple scanners. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have the 4-port, the 8-port, and if you're goofy like I am, a 16-port. And you can put multiple scanners on one antenna. Hey, I hear something.
Yeah, it's a train coming through.
Yeah, and so the multi-coupler works on the same 12-volt power. Music to my ears.
Yes.
The multi-couplers work on the same 12-volt power plug as a unit in scanner, so it's not hard to wire in for power. And they work really well in the vehicle. I've used them in my vehicles for years.
So number 4 is definitely a good one that everybody should be aware of. Make sure that you do not mount your radios in airbag zones, because guess what's going to happen when that airbag deploys? You're going to get a 996 plastered to the face.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Good.
Yeah, you basically converted your scanner into a missile. So find out where your airbag zone is and don't put radios in it. In my vehicle, you see some pictures later. In your vehicle too, the radios are well outside the airbag zone. So if the airbag does go off, it's going to protect you, and it's not going to you're not going to have a keyboard embedded in your nose. So,
Yeah, I mean that could cause some serious injuries.
yeah, absolutely.
And the airbag's supposed to be there to prevent some injuries, not
Yeah,
cause injuries.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, Mounting radios so they can be easily seen, and the displays and access controls can be easily seen, and access controls by the
Hmm.
user. You don't want to put a radio someplace where you're struggling to be able to turn down the volume knob, or be able to, let's say you're at a stoplight and you got to do 900 things
Yeah.
to be able to get to there, especially if you have a police officer behind you. It's going to look a little weird that you're fumbling around in the front of your car. Clearly you're doing something other than focusing on driving.
Yeah, and you don't want to be creating furtive movements, as we said in the business. But yeah, you want to put it, and especially the volume control. You want to be able to put the volume control someplace where you can access it easily without having to look down at it, and where you know where it's at. And please, while you're driving, don't be programming your scanner or trying looking at the display. That can be done by the passenger, or it can be done. It's just like texting on a phone. Pull over, stop, put the vehicle in park, program your radio, and then continue on.
Yeah, if you need to do something and you don't have a passenger in your vehicle, pull over where it's safe to do so.
Yep.
I mean,
Or,
that'll certainly save you and other people on the road.
yeah. My wife can't figure out why I want her to drive all the time when we go to the store, because I want to play with the radio,
Yeah.
And the next one is make sure, check to see if you're going to need an external or even an amplified speaker. So if your vehicle is nice and quiet, you're driving a Cadillac or something like that, where it's real quiet on the inside, you may not need any external speakers or an amplified speaker. But if you're driving an open Jeep or a beat up old pickup truck that's noisy, you might want to consider an external speaker mounted someplace where it's going to be close, or maybe even an amplified speaker if you really need that extra punch.
Yeah, and the other thing with the amplified speakers, let's say you're using like the unit in Home Patrol, you love
Mm-hmm.
that radio. You want to make sure that you do an amplified speaker, because that jack is a headphone jack.
Yeah.
So it's reducing down volume level already. So when you use headphones, you're not going to blast out your eardrums. So what you need to do is put an amplified speaker in place, and then allows you to rise that volume up.
Yep.
For years, I had a Home Patrol in the truck, and I used an amplified speaker. With my current setup, I'm using an amplified speaker because a lot of times I want to have the windows down.
Yeah.
So being able to have the windows down, I can still hear my scanner. If I have both the passenger and driver's windows down, I can hear it.
There goes the DPU.
Yep. Yeah, I just saw it in the window. So
hey,
yeah.
There was a question. Did you catch the 4001 today?
Yes, I did. That was an awesome find, because I just the Warbash came through. That was heading. Which way was that heading? That was heading eastbound, and then the 4001 was heading westbound, and it was the second locomotive in the front end.
Yeah.
And I knew right away, blue. I can see that front end blue, and I knew, so I got of course the head unit, and then I was focused on trying to get something decent, of that one. I mean, it looks great.
Yeah.
You remember, Rich, what happened to that unit? I mean, it got into a crash, and they basically rebuilt the front end of it.
Yeah, I think the Northwestern, one of the very first units they had painted in Operation Lifesaver, was involved in a grade crossing collision with the first month it was on the road. So, so much for Operation Lifesaver on that one. But yeah, that's an issue for any of the memorial units or special paint jobs and stuff. So.
Yeah, so if you want to see those photos, hop over to the Train Aficionado Facebook page, or if you're on Instagram, check out the Train Aficionado Instagram page. I have photos of both of today's heritage units. We rolled in here around 11:30, and then we had lunch, and then we did a little bit of rail fanning. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We'll continue on with this though.
Alrighty.
We're at number 7 on the countdown for
Yep.
zip code type scanners. Turn off the replay. This is a huge thing.
Yeah.
We noticed this issue with this radio, Rich. Both of us. With that pesky replay, if you turn the ignition switch off and you have your scanner still on, if you catch it in the right moment, it's trying to save that.
Yep.
And it corrupts the SD card. And then when you go to start the scanner up again or the car up again, and then it'll say there's an error on the SD card, and then you got to fix it.
I had a 536 in my car for last 4 or 5 cars, and it's about 7 or 8 years when they first came out. And the first couple of months, I had SD card errors on like a monthly basis. And then I realized that you could turn off the replay feature. And since I've done that, I have not had one SD card failure. Of course, hint number 8 is probably just as big a rule or big a reason for that.
Yeah, and right now I have my 536 in the truck, and I do have my spare SD card.
Yep.
So God forbid if anything happens.
I brought mine in to update the database. So that's going to be my project tonight when I'm done, is updating the database on my spare SD card for my 536.
Yeah, so that's definitely, 7 or 8 are very important for those database scanners.
Yep.
Number 9, direct wiring to the fuse box or battery for high voltage two-way radios. You want to make sure you do that, and you want to do that safely.
Yeah. On a fuse box, on a scanner, since they're very low current draw, you can just wire those right to the fuse box. No big deal. It's very thin wire. You really don't need it. It's not that big a deal. As long as it's got a good electrical connection, it's not going to bounce off. And it's fused, moving into number 10 on this as well. Make sure it's fused. And if you've got a two-way radio like a GMRS radio or 2-meter 440 type radio, run that power directly to the battery. If you want to get fancy, do like I did and get a ignition sense relay, so that you can still turn it on and off with the ignition, but the power lead still goes directly to the battery, so that it has better current draw. If you run it to the fuse box, you may not have enough power to run the radio, or you're going to get a voltage drop or cause other issues.
Yeah, and speaking of power, number 10 is also an important one if you're using handheld scanners.
Yep.
Make sure you keep spare batteries. That's a great thing for aviation enthusiasts or rail fans. If you're spending the whole day trackside, you want to make sure that you keep your scanner up and running, and extra batteries is certainly a key thing to be able to do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep your spare SD card, keep some spare batteries. And that's one of the nicer things about the 436 and the 325. They use regular AA batteries in the 125. If you've got an SDS 100, you might want to consider buying one of those spare batteries and keep that charged as well.
Yeah, we want to welcome you in case you're joining us a little late. Tonight, we're talking about traveling with a scanner. So these were our 11 tips for mobile scanner hints. Mm-hmm. We'll continue on and take a look at what we're going to talk about next. And it looks like we're going to look at my mobile shack. This is something that I've worked on pretty recent. I wanted to get this done for this trip out to Pennsylvania. So we'll take a look at that right now. So I did have the SDS 200 in the vehicle. I switched back to the 536 HP because I wanted to be able to see what's. I really wish it was still light out because it's snow outside. So the 536 HP, I'm really a fan of it in the vehicle. I mean, it works really well. The reason why I moved the SDS because I spend a lot more time at my desk at home, and I wanted to be able to get some more hands-on time with it.
Yeah.
So what I'm using is I'm using the unit in power cord with the light control. I'm not using it for light control, but I found that the plug is more secure than the round barrel plug.
Yeah.
So that's what I use. I basically use that, and then I also use the cigarette lighter adapter,
Hmm.
which I have wired in for both the scanner and the speaker, because I have the amplified 4-inch speaker, which is the BC23A.
Yep.
And then I also have inside the box, which you'll see momentarily, I have a 4-port um, uh, DC plug there, as you can see, outlet plug. And then I'm using the old school because we have a new version of the GPS. I'm using the old school GPS, as you
Yeah.
can see there, which works perfect. I also have a wiring harness, which Rich helped me create, that I could have up to 3 radios plugged in at the same time with that one GPS. But I'm only using one radio in the vehicle, so I just have the basic setup for this one.
Yeah, that's something that I built for my vehicle as well, and it basically allows you to use one GPS for multiple scanners, and it works great. And I've never had a problem with that. So,
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll take a look at what I ended up purchasing. So I wanted this install to look really nice. So I bought one of these face plates, as you can see here, that's made for a 996 or a 536. And as you can see here, those are the measurements. I bought it from Solid Signal. They had the best price. I saw it varied from price from $24.19 all the way up to $30. And as we talked about in a previous show, they actually have a faceplate for the SDS 200 as well. So here you can see all the so I make my own mount in the vehicle, a
yeah.
box, as you can see. There's a cool story with the paint. So I love this gray paint color.
Hmm.
So I've used it for a couple of different projects in the home. This paint was one of those, if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, they'll have retints. So let's say a customer had paint mixed, they didn't like the color. So what ends up happening is the can's no good. So the paint team will basically retint, change the color, so the customer doesn't come in and buy that tint after.
Yeah.
So they reduce the price down. So the paint, this little can of paint, which you can see there, was $2.50. So my wife and I, we really liked the paint, and we were
Yeah.
wondering how much is it full price. We looked at it, was well over $30 for that paint can.
Gee.
I no wonder why it looks so, like it paints on so well. It looks really
Sure.
nice. $30, for that smaller paint can. So this
Hmm.
paint that I used is I have a scanner box that's inside the house. I used that for that color as well, and then I also used it for the mobile. So I like the two-tone, the black and the gray looks really cool. We'll
Yeah.
take a look at it a little bit more in the next one. So here we go, looking from left to right. As you can see here, the box without the faceplate. So I put in a floor on the bottom half. That's where I'm going to put the speaker, as you can see in the other two
Yeah.
photos. That's the amplified speaker, and then I put the faceplate in that slot there, and then the GPS antenna. I actually was able to move that down and put that on the speaker. Now, the good thing about that GPS antenna, it's magnetic. So
Hmm.
I found it was best to put it on the speaker. It doesn't move. It also looks really cool on there.
Sure. Yeah, and the GPS receiver doesn't necessarily have to be outside the vehicle. I've got mine inside my vehicle, and as long as it gets a couple satellites, that's fine.
Yeah, and it works really well. I love
Yeah.
this setup. I mean, it's a smaller setup, and this is probably the most professional looking thing that I put together. I basically bought my wood for this project at Home Depot or Lowe's. And then
Hmm.
you can see on the top there where the GPS antenna is, it's a
Yep.
thinner board That's basically crafting wood. You can get that at Michael's or AC Moore or any
Sure.
of those places. And I mean, it was really simple. The other thing too is you can see that I put my speaker slightly over to the left.
Yep.
So right there, I can put in a portable radio, and I can drop my portable radio in there, so it's easy to store it. So usually I was putting my portable radio in the cup holder.
Yeah.
So if I get a drink and my passenger gets a drink, unfortunately my cup holder's tied up by a scanner. So I said,
yeah.
all right, I'm going to figure out a spot to put my scanner. And then the other thing too that Rich mentioned, which I have the capability of doing that because I have that 4-port DC outlets inside the box.
Yeah.
I could run a cord up and power my portable radio because most of them have the same type of cord.
Sure.
All the newer radios. So that's what my setup looks like.
Cool. Well, let's move on to the next one. And hey, that's me.
Yep.
All righty. So this is the stuff that I've got in my vehicle. A lot of the same stuff that Jonathan has. Got a 536. I've got a 996 P2, and I've got my Linko 638 VHF UHF radio. It's a ham radio, but it's actually type accepted for commercial and GMRS, so I can use it for GMRS as well. And then I've got the same GPS receiver, and I've got an adapter cable that I built to allow me to use it for both scanners. So I only need one GPS for 2 scanners. I've had as many as 4 scanners connected to one GPS. It worked great. And then I have the cup call with a handheld scanner. Right now I've got looks like a 325 in that picture, but I also have used that for my 436, my 125, whatever scanner I happen to be carrying with me at the time. And it actually works very, very well. I use the Linko for 2-meter 440 ham radio stuff, GMRS. But to tell you the truth, what I use it for most of the time is railroads.
Yeah, I mean that's the same thing. Like I'm out here along the Pittsburgh line.
Yeah,
I'm not. I all I want to hear is the railroads. So that's what I have that radio right now. It's in the truck. It's just scanning the railroads.
Yeah,
and I don't want to miss any of the action.
Right. So what I'll do is I'll put both the A band and the D band on whatever 2 railroad channels are active in the area, the road channel, maybe the yard channel, or the other road channel coming up, what have you. And I'll leave one of the scanners to scan the other railroad channels, look for other activity, and the other scanner for whatever I happen to want to listen to at the time. So those are the stuff that I have in the car. And this is the build before it got put together. On the left is the erector set looking type of thing, the rack without that's denuded, no radios, no paint. So basically it's a piece of hardwood, and this heavy duty, it's either you call it pipe strapping or mending bars, what have you, buy it at Home Depot. And I cut it, and on the front one, it's one piece bent in a U shape, and then I got the ends cut off. On the forward part of it, where they're kind of bent at angles, they're 2 pieces. And I have threaded inserts on the back side, on the underside of the board, so that when you screw those screws down, it actually tightens those inserts on. So that's really, really secure. I use a couple flat washers to keep those down. And the 2 little brackets there, one is for the power box, and one is for an external speaker for one of the scanners. And then the other side is what it looks like when it's painted and there are no radios. And then here's the radios as they are laid out. So I have the 2 radios. They're held together with heavy-duty Velcro, and the Linko is held on the bottom radio with heavy-duty Velcro. This one is before I put the 536 in. I changed my mind, and I had a couple of 996s, and I changed my mind, and you can see the 536 on the right. And then there's the radio on the board, and then I just kind of get it into the car, kind of work it into the car. And the very important hint is make sure the radios are not in the rack when you're painting it.
Yes. Yeah, you don't
Um,
want to have a black screen if you're painting with
Yeah, absolutely. So what I did is I just took a big piece of big cardboard box that I'd gotten some from Amazon on and used that as a paint box. And I put that in there. I spray painted it. Came out an hour later, flipped it around, painted the other side, and did that three times to get a couple coats on it, and to get each side. And then I let it sit overnight, and with it being so dry here, it was nice and dry in the morning. And then the picture on the left is what the inside of my vehicle looked like before with no radios. It's one of the reasons why I bought the Odyssey, is because it's got that big wide open area between the center console and the dashboard. And then there's the picture of what it looks like with the radios in place. And now that picture was taken before I had my antennas installed. So I had a mag mount antenna on the roof and a power lead going into the cigarette lighter plug. I had a professional installer come out and drill the NMO mounts in my roof. And he also installed an ignition relay and ran the power lead to the front of the radio. So there are no exposed wires in my setup now. But at the time I took that picture, he hadn't been out yet. So, and I thought it looked really good. I was going to have a woodworker build a box, and sides on there. But I realized with the black paint, it's not necessary. Even my wife likes it, which is
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it's floating in there. It just looks like, it just belongs there.
It fits perfectly. It doesn't block the access to the CD DVD drive. I got my cup holders. Works great.
Yeah, well, the thing with the box, if you're building a box, the things that I recommend is definitely having spots to be able to hide the things in the box, such as, let's say you have for the amplified speaker, it comes with 10 feet of the audio cable. You want to make sure that you wrap that up, and on top of that, you want to wrap it up and secure it up and in. I got those zip tie facet things and then I also got the sticky box, things that you put the zip tie through and then you zip tie it in. So you don't want to have this box rattling with rattling noise in the inside. That's going to drive you insane.
Well, what I did is on the underside of that board, I put some felt stick-on feet on there. Mm-hmm. So that keeps it from scratching the plastic or rubber.
And I did the same thing on mine. I put the felt on the bottom so it wouldn't damage the carpet. And then I also put felt on each end so it's not the box when it shift or slide. So it's a snug fit.
Well, on the bottom side of the Alinco radio, which I put the cloth side of Velcro on there, and acts as kind of a buffer pad between that and the front of the cup holders there, and it keeps that from scratching. And I've taken that out once in the 2 years I've had this vehicle now. I've taken that out once when I had the car detailed, and I wanted them to clean out that, and there wasn't a scratch on there, and I was very happy with that. And the thing does not move. You can't move it laterally, and the only way to get those radios out is basically I take a plastic wall scraper, for drywall glop, and I stick that in between the two scanners to separate the Velcro, and then slip a piece of cardboard in there so that the radios are separated, so I can pull one radio out, and then I can take the whole thing out.
Wow.
So it works. And the way I put it in is I put a piece of paper in there and in between the two radios, and put the bottom two radios in there, inserted the top radio with that piece of paper, got it aligned just the way I like it, slid the paper out.
Nice.
Worked great. So now we're going to talk about the Uniden Home Patrol. This is one of our favorite mobile scanners.
Yeah, this is one of the ultimate radios for traveling. In the vehicle, can be easily set up in the vehicle. We just want to remind you, as always, we're brought to you by Scanner Master, as you see on the screen. So most of these accessories that we're going to talk about are things that you can purchase from Scanner Master. We, of course, indicate if it was purchased from somewhere else. So let's take a look at this. So there's the Home Patrol there. The travel case is something that I worked on. The owner, Rich Barnett, was kind of looking for some sort of case that you could throw in a suitcase and then have all your accessories in there, even operate the radio from the bag. So
Yep.
let's say if you were using a rental car, you could easily toss this in the passenger seat, be able to just plug in power, plug in an antenna, leave the radio in the bag, and you can do that. The other thing too that's great about the Home Patrol, a lot of people know RAM mounts. As you can
Hmm.
see there in the bottom left of the screen, there's the Home Patrol with the RAM mount. That suction cup mount is heavy duty, so
Yep.
you can suction it up to the windshield or wherever it's safe. Make sure you look at local laws in case there
Yep.
is rules or regulations about suction cupping things to the actual windshield. But yeah, that's definitely something that you can use that as well, and it keeps it right in eye view. Now, the other great thing about the Home Patrol is its touchscreen display,
Yeah.
easy to operate because you can, let's say you hear something, you can just tap that bottom line of the screen and stay right on that channel. Or if you want to keep within that department, tap the middle line. So it's certainly a great thing. What makes the Home Patrol great for road trips and travel? It's easy to program with a zip code or favorites list by using the Sentinel software. It's small and compact, GPS programming. And of
Yep.
course, I've already mentioned this already, the GPS screen. So you can definitely check out all these things are available at Scanner Master.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also have the clips by themselves. The triangle clip, it actually snaps onto the back of the Home Patrol, and there's little slots that they fit into. I had a Home Patrol in my last vehicle that I just screwed that thing right into the dashboard.
And
Wife wasn't happy about that, but
I've made some custom mounts as well, the
yeah,
scanner box, as I call it. And, with that particular part, and being able to position that a certain way. So that's certainly, you can
yeah.
get kind of crafty with it because you can do something just with that adapter, that part alone.
Yeah, Gene asked if we were worried about theft, and I think we talked about that a little bit before before he came along, and we both use uh, color selected towels to cover the radios, and our portable radios and stuff we bring in with us at night when we're on the road. So yeah, we do worry about it, but we do our best to prevent it. And
So this, Rich, because I do a lot of the email monitoring,
yep,
we got a rash of emails that came in fast and furious. Because we kind of talked about mobile shacks, and a lot of people got thinking about it. So we've got some really cool pictures in the next segment. Some, and believe it or not, antenna farms on
yep,
vehicles.
yeah, absolutely.
So,
So
so
check
I
this one out first. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, you need to brace yourself for this. This
Yeah,
is this is crazy amount right here. Look at this. Not only it's an antenna farm, it's on a Crown Vic.
yeah. Yeah, this is my buddy Will, and he has a Crown Vic that he maintains meticulously. All of the antennas are mounted in with NMOs, and they are hole drilled, and they are professionally installed, and every antenna is connected to a radio. So that is actually a police package Crown Vic police interceptor. That was previously a police car. I think it was like a captain's car or something, in one of the southeastern states. But he did a great job with this. I have been in this vehicle, and it's fascinating.
Well, the thing is, it looks like a brand new right off the lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that looks meticulously, nice. I mean, right
Yep.
down to, the color, the rims. I mean, it's got, cop car, cop tires, cop brakes, cop shocks.
Transmission. Yeah.
Yeah, cop all,
Yeah.
right there.
And it runs well on regular gas. But
Yep.
yeah, it is a spectacularly well maintained car, and it is nice. So let's take a look at some of the inside shots. So this
Ooh.
is, he's got just a couple radios in there. And this picture is kind of tight. I kind of wish we would have gotten one that's a little further out, but he's got a laptop in there for mapping and radio programming. He's got a couple Motorola radios for DMR. He's got a couple scanners. I see a 996T there. And he's an active ham. He's got a Kenwood. He's got a Yaesu HF radio. He can talk on just about every ham radio frequency out there. He can pretty much listen to just about anything on the scanners. So he is he's got a very well equipped car.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it does look like, like with the laptop, just completes the package.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this is Dale, our buddy Dale.
Look at that. And look, and it's exactly what you said, separating out those antennas, making them nice and neat.
Yep, absolutely. Now he's got a pattern that I've used before on my vehicles. You put three in the back, one in the middle, and two in the front. When you have multiple antennas, you're going to have to decide what type of pattern you're going to put those in to keep them separated and to accommodate the number of antennas. If you've got two antennas, your best bet to make it look relatively decent is to have them on one on the right, one on the left. And if you're going to have three, well, then you can put one up front and two in the back, which is probably the most typical thing. And if you're going to have, in this case, six, he's got the one smack dab in the middle. That's probably his most important antenna. And then the other ones are a little bit further out so that it looks like he's got the 800 mega antenna on the passenger front. He's got some sort of a low profile antenna on the driver front. Looks like a VHF quarter wave in the middle and an elevated feed or perhaps a Radio Shack scanner antenna if that's. And then he's got a couple Larsons on the right and center rear.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really nice setup right there.
And this is Chris, his normal antenna on his Expedition. He's got two Austin Condor antennas on the corners. So that's he's got BNC mounts with Austin Condor antennas, which is a unique way of doing it. I would never have thought about doing it that way. And then Pepper Shaker antenna for 700 and 800 megahertz. That's the little low profile one, which they actually work pretty well on 800 megahertz. A wideband military aircraft antenna that works on 100 megahertz up through about 500. And then a VHF Larson. So he occasionally adds some mag mounts for radio safaris. I've done that in the past too. We've gone on radio trips. My buddy Scott or my buddy Matt or Will or I, and we'll go on some radio safari looking for stuff, and we'll pop a couple extra mag mounts on the roof to add some radios for the trip.
This is a unique one. I mean, it's a pretty basic antenna setup, but he was able to make it work.
Yeah. He's got the window mount BNC connector. So basically what you do is you roll down the window and this kind of slides onto the top of the window, and then you just roll the window up and it allows you to connect your BNC antenna to it. And then it's got a coax leading down to your radio. I've got one of those. I use it for rental cars when I travel, and it works very well. And you just take your BNC scanner antenna off the radio and put it on there. So it's effective. It gets you going, and they work pretty darn well.
Well, thank you, Mark, too, for your comment. He watches almost every one of our shows every week. We appreciate that. That's for sure.
Absolutely. All right. So this is Dave's setup. He's really simple. He's got a 396 XT, which is a fantastic scanner if you don't need phase 2. And it looks like he's got a single NMO mount in the middle of the roof. And I'm kind of guessing it's a VHF quarter wave, and connected to obviously a coax and then a BNC to SMA adapter. And he's got looks like some sort of a mount to hold it, probably a cup holder or some other clip. But if you're using a handheld scanner, this is a great way to do it. He's got a power cord coming out the one side to power the radio. He's got an outside antenna, and it works great. I love my 396. And when you're going to be using a single antenna, an NMO mount type antenna, and you want one antenna to work well on all the bands, consider the VHF quarter wave, because obviously it'll work really well on VHF high band. It acts as kind of a decent antenna on UHF and 800 as well. But I've had a lot of good luck using VHF quarter waves on my vehicles. So he's got a Police Interceptor Explorer. So that's a police package Ford Explorer.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And it looks really sharp.
Yeah.
Your mobile shack doesn't need to be something elaborate. I mean, this looks really clean.
Yeah, and you're never going to know there's a radio in there unless you looked in there. You don't have a lot of antennas like Will, but he's got what he needs. So it looks great, Dave. And this is Ken's. He's got a pickup truck, and it looks like he's got a 996T and a GE Century, or sorry, Bearcat 890, or well, I'm having a hard time talking now all of a sudden.
Yeah,
Bearcat
so he's
980.
Which is the CB scanner combo, if I remember correctly.
No, that's the 855. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a 980. Yeah.
Yeah. So another clean setup. I mean, this looks really good. His antenna placement looks like it's spot on as well from what I can see there.
Yeah, it looks like you got just the two antennas on the roof. And when you're in a pickup truck, unless you've got a sunroof, you usually have a lot of real estate for antennas. But if you've got a sunroof on a pickup truck, that really limits your real estate for antennas sometimes. But right along the back of the back of the passenger compartment is going to usually be your best bet in those circumstances.
Yeah. So Dale actually posted those antennas. What we can do is roll back if you want to. So here we go. Here's your official antenna lineup.
All right. So on the front, it's got a cell phone on the front driver's side, 700 or 800 megahertz on the front passenger. I got that one right. Scanner antennas in the middle. So of course that's the most important one. Yeah. Driver's rear is a UHF. VHF is in the rear middle, and a dual band ham on the passenger side rear. So all right, that's pretty cool. The 700-800 megahertz and the VHF UHF feed an APX 8000, which is a Motorola mobile radio that does VHF, UHF, and 700-800 megahertz. So that's the tri-band. Actually, I guess they call them a 5-band radio because it does VHF, UHF, 700, 800, and GPS. So they advertise that as a 5-band radio. We had a couple of those installed in some of our company vehicles at work before I retired, and they were fun radios to program, but they worked very well.
Cool. So I just figured we could post that up. Then you were pretty spot on with everything there, so we'll continue on.
All right, and let's see here. Here's did I go too far?
Nope, that's right.
Okay, here we go. All right, so Chris has got a Midland two-way radio with an antenna on his golf cart. So you don't see a lot of radios on golf carts. Now, I live in a community where golf carts are street legal, and a lot of people. I used to have a golf cart. I used to drive back and forth to the store, but a lot of my neighbors have golf carts, and they're very popular out here. But he's got his. I'm assuming it's for GMRS, and he's got his two-way radio with an antenna on his golf cart. So cool.
And the radio is really slick. I mean, you look at it, it looks like unfortunately the microphone is down towards the middle of the shot. It looks like all your button functionality is on the microphone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty neat. I just got a message here from Chris. Yeah, that would be definitely a good one. Mobile setups for your lease vehicles means that you can't drill holes or anything into the vehicle. So my setup right now, there's no holes being drilled. I'm using a cigarette lighter adapter to power everything. And plus I'm using the Spectrum Force wideband with mag mount. Yep. There's no holes being drilled. Basically, I have a window that slides open in the back. So I run the thin coax cable through there, run it up right behind the top light, mag mount right in the middle. But yeah, I mean, if a lot of you out there do have lease vehicles, what we would need from you is to send in photos like these people have done so we
Yeah.
can see what those look like. Unfortunately, it's only Rich and I. We only have our one vehicle that we have our radios in. So we don't have a lease vehicle to do that. But if you guys out there want to share those photos,
Hmm.
definitely. And we can put together a show based on that.
Yeah.
And you can email those photos. Of course, I'll put up the email address. Email them to the scanner guys at gmail.com.
Yeah.
The scanner guys at gmail.com. Chris
Yeah.
just
The
wrote,
scatter guys with an S.
oh, shoot. Yes, scanner guys.
All
I'll fix that right now.
right. All right. So yeah, while you're working on that, Chris did mention that it is a GMRS radio. So I pat myself on the back. I called that one. So
Look at that. Look at that.
no,
Simultaneously.
you still got it wrong.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. I've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning. So
Yeah.
it's been a long day for me.
Well,
We just-
we'll forgive it this time.
There we go.
There you go.
Yes, the scanner guys at gmail.com. I mean, this is happening live. So, we're trying to do everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, the golf cart, is really cool that it has a radio in it. I think that's pretty awesome. But yeah, if
Yeah.
any of you own any lease vehicles and you've got a temporary setup, certainly send us those pics. We would love to see those, and then we can make a total show out of it.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's basically what we did tonight. Is we gave you some tips on mobile installs, and then we were able to show our mobile installs, and then other people sent in over a period of time their the mobile installs. So we were able to put together a really cool show. So
Yeah.
these things that you send to us is certainly awesome. So keep them rolling in. But if you have scanner questions, this is the email address you want to do. Support@scannermaster.com is the email address you want to send those questions to, not to the scanner guy's email address, because we don't monitor that 24/7. I've been trying to keep up with that one as much as I can, but definitely scanner questions, send them to support@scannermaster.com. If you're a little shy on email and you want to talk on the phone, give us a call Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time at 1-800-722-6637. That's 1-800-722-6637. That spells out 1-800-SCANNER, in case you didn't know that. And then, as always, shop Scannermaster online 24/7 at scannermaster.com. And you know what? They're our sponsor.
That's right.
So we'll continue on here.
And if you call, you're going to get me whether you want me or not. So
And
people ask me, yeah,
And occasionally get me.
Yeah, people will call and they want to call me back and they asking, well, what's your extension number? Say, you called it. Just call and you're going to get me.
Yeah, just call and get
Yeah, and if you get the other guy, just tell them that you want to talk to me. So,
Yeah.
all righty.
Or
So
get me, I'll be happy to talk to you as well.
there you go. Yeah, Jonathan's a nice guy. He knows what he's talking about too. So he may look funny, but he's a pretty smart feller. All right, so let's go right into romper room today, huh?
I want to show a couple of these slides.
Oh, we got some more?
Oh yeah, I
I'm
want to.
sorry.
We got some big news here.
Oh yeah. Duh.
So stupid scanner tricks. And send in your shack photos, as I mentioned earlier. The scanner guys at gmail.com. The scanner guys at gmail.com. We'll do the next one. This is huge for us. This is what I was trying to get to before. A lot of you tend to, have to get up early in the morning. I wanted to make sure we got this slide up before we ended the broadcast. We will repeat it again before the end of the broadcast. So next Wednesday, this will be our big interview. We'll have Lindsey Blatton, which many of you know is the owner of Radio Reference and Broadcastify. We're going to talk to him about how this all came about and how did he get into the hobby that we all loved.
Sure.
I mean, we've had Phil from the Scanner School. Mm-hmm. We had Marshall, which is well known on Radio Reference, on the broadcast. We all have a lot of things in common, including Rich and myself getting into this hobby when we were kids.
Yeah.
Now we're going to learn, how did Lindsay get into this, and how did he make his hobby into his livelihood from making money? I mean, which is crazy.
Yeah.
His hobby turned into his own business.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's going to be an interesting tale to hear how that happened, and we'll have a bunch of questions for him, and it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so next week, Wednesday, October the 14th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Tune in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Set a reminder on your phone. Make sure that you want to watch this one live. I think this is going to be a good show. And then, if you guys have any questions for him, if he sticks around for the second half, you may get your question answered by Lindsay.
Yeah.
So definitely tune into the show. It's going to be certainly a good one. Now we can go into Romper Room.
All righty. I was getting so excited about going to Romper Room. I almost forgot about the rest of the show here. So
all right. So let's take a look at some questions. How far back are we going to go?
We'll go all the way up to the top here. So Chris asks, for aircraft frequencies, are they programmed in your radios just like you program a scanner? So yeah,
question.
Absolutely. So there's no real difference between aircraft frequencies and other scanner frequencies, except that aircraft tend to use AM versus FM for police and fire. And you just find out the frequency and enter it to your scanner just like you would any other scanner frequency. Most of the time, the scanner will know what the default mode is for that particular frequency range. So if you program in 119.9 or something like that, it should automatically program it into the AM mode. But if it doesn't, or if you accidentally program it to the FM mode, any scanner that handles aircraft frequencies allow you to change the mode back to AM, and chances are it will default to it as well. All righty. So Jerry asks, the vice president debates are here. No, but we are going to be much more entertaining than that will be. So
yes, yeah. I mean, it looks like a debate because we're side by side. So you've got that side by side. Even
we're socially distanced.
Yes, by a lot. Even in this shot, we're top and bottom. So it's really almost debate style because you see us almost all the time on camera. Unless I pull one of these and do this, and then it's just me, and then we can cut to Rich. There he is. But yeah, the debate tonight is traveling with mobile scanners. Yeah, and it's a debate that everybody likes.
Absolutely. So we got a few guys check in just to say hi. Les and Kevin, John, our buddy from Jersey, and Dave from Buffalo. So hi to all you guys, and Joe's in New York. Our buddy Caleb 49. That's like a broadcast, like a radio station. He's our buddy Kev from Georgia. Steve checking in. He ordered some stuff, and he mentioned the scanner guys. Yes, absolutely. Awesome. When you buy something from Scanner Master, make sure you mention to the person on the phone, or if you're ordering it online, put in the notes that you're a Scanner Guys fan. Our boss does see that, and our boss does appreciate that, and we get little pats on the back, and it does help us out quite a bit.
Yeah,
and plus it keeps the show going too. So
yeah, because I'm sure we'll be up for renewal again at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dale's working on the road tonight. He's in Kalispell, Montana, which is pretty much not quite the end of the world, but he can see it just over the next hill. And we already spoke about Barry's adventures with this GPS. Got all of that worked. Joe and Charlie are checking in. Pat's from Louisiana. Scott has bought an SDS 100 today. Go to his 200. Fantastic. Appreciate that. And glad you're going to love it. And if you know how to work the 200, you can work the 100, no problem. Same software, same files, different cable, though. They both come with the cables, obviously, but make sure you have both cables if you're going to be doing both radios. You can also, remember on zip code scanners, you can also do the programming with taking the SD card out of the radio, turn the radio off first, take the SD card out, put the SD card in your SD card reader, you'll notice that the reading and writing to the radio, especially when you're doing the database, is much faster on a card reader than doing it with the SD card in the radio. Also, if you've got your vehicle, your scanner mounted in the vehicle, and it's like a 536 or an SDS 200, you can take the SD card out, do the programming inside on the computer, and then bring the SD card and put it back in the radio, just like if you were programming directly on the radio. Dave mentions in New York State, if you Google the NYS V&T Law Section 397, you can get their scanner rules and regulations. If you are driving through New York, and the way the law reads, you are allowed to have the scanner with you, print that out and bring it with you. Police officers aren't usually all that current on kind of esoteric stuff like scanner laws and stuff. So if you have that out there, it might save you from getting a ticket or something. The other thing, too, is if you get stopped by the police, even if it is illegal where you're at and you have it in there, most of the time, if you're not an idiot and you treat the officer with respect, he's going to say, okay, fine, just leave it off until you get the jersey.
Or the other thing, too, is, just turn it off.
Yeah.
And don't bring attention to it. Because more than likely, the officer is going to be paying attention to you as the individual. And as long as you're not acting strange or doing strange things, he's going to be license registration. He's going to go back, run you, and then send you on your merry way, whether it be with a gift certificate or not. For the state, that'll be the case. And
if you turn the radio off while he's there, and he asks, hey, it's a ham radio or something like that. And if it's not on, what you don't want to do is you don't want his radio coming out of your radio. So that is not a good thing to do.
That's a big red flag right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Carmen checks in from New York as well. Charlie and Ken. Vince is out there. Tim asks, is there any rumors from Unit about an SDS version 2?
So most of you know that Rich and I are beta testers, and we could not tell you if we were beta testing anything, but currently right now we're not active in any tests as of right now. We can tell you that.
Yeah.
So there's but yeah, that would be interesting. Tim, what would the SDS 100 version 2 have that the current one doesn't have? I mean, that could be some interesting things, What would Unit want to put into this new version of that particular radio?
Yeah, there's a lot of forum threads at Radio Reference about that as well. And it's, like the scanner wish list and stuff like that. And I participated in those myself. But now I'm kind of in a position where they actually listen to me, which is like, I got to be careful now what I asked for.
Yes. Oh, Rich mentioned that, so we're probably going to get it. Yeah. We're going to get it. We're going to get it.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, we're going to get it.
All righty. So the remote head on the SDS. I can't say that. Okay.
Or me the other week, saying the Home Patrol 3, which doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't exist yet. No. So Les is up in Toronto, and in Canada, there's no permit required up until the mid '90s. So you had up until the mid '90s, you had to show an ID and sign a waiver to buy one in the scanner store. So I don't remember ever having to do that, and I bought scanners in Canada, but that was back in the 70s and 80s, and it might have had something to do with digital. But I remember buying scanners. There was a place called Lakeshore Electronics in Burlington or Aldershot. I think it was in Burlington, and fantastic scanner store. Every scanner under the sun. Crystals coming out. They had a whole wall full of crystals, and some of the newer programmable scanners at the time. And this is kind of dating me, but I bought a Bearcat 220 up there when they were still new. So Joe says the sun melted his amber lights in the front of his dashboard. Yeah, I've seen radar detectors get melted here in Arizona, so you don't see a lot of those on the dashboards out here. Yeah, but one thing you do see in Arizona is the sunscreens on the front of the
Yes.
vehicles. Yeah,
I do
um,
see a lot more of that here in the Carolinas just because
yeah,
of the summer heat and so on. But yeah,
yeah,
sure
yeah.
you see it a lot over there.
Yeah, and then they had like what 1 day over 90 in Massachusetts this year, and you know, and we've had 1 day under 90 in the last 6 months here. So,
Yes.
um, so Glenn writes, in addition to the state police and highway patrol, don't forget the DOTs.
Yes.
Yeah,
Speaking of that, so I was able to do some listening to the brand new Pennsylvania statewide trunk system. You know, they're
hmm
finally moving off of that open sky system. So, unfortunately, as many of you know, the state police portion of things is encrypted, but their highway DOT portion of it isn't. So, I wanted to have an opportunity to listen to the system to see how well it works.
yeah,
I was very pleased with it. I was listening to highway patrols all the way from North Carolina all the way up here. And you know what? It was just a digital sound all the way through.
yeah,
Most of the highway patrols now are using digital, but yeah, the new Pennsylvania system sounds really good on the scanner side of things. Hopefully, it sounds really good for the users of the system on that
yeah.
side as well. But yeah, it sounded really good.
Well, I'm kind of happy that the highway patrol here in Arizona is selling analog, and I listen to them when I go up to Flagstaff all the time. And the radio system sounds pretty good, but you're driving up and down the mountains, and there's some places where I'm in a valley, and all of a sudden I can't hear the highway patrol. It gets really scratchy, but it's still nice to hear some analog occasionally. So
Yes, definitely. I heard a couple of radio transmissions that were analog because I did program in for just for the heck of it some of the analog channels that were listed on Radio Reference.
yeah,
Just see if I was like, "Ooh, that sounds analog," and sure enough, it was.
cool. A couple more check-ins from Charlie and Joe. Dale mentions that antenna placement rule of thumb is a minimum of 18 inches apart if possible. So that kind of goes along with what we were saying. Keep them as far apart as practical or as possible. 18 inches is a good rule of thumb for antenna placement. So keep them as far apart as you can, and 18 inches at minimum if you're kind of stuck there. So. Let's see here. New York Pixels. He heard the horns. He thought he was back at work. So he either
Hmm.
works on or around the railroad.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, literally, I mean, it's really, I mean, most people are annoyed by the sound, but Rich and I, we like, it's like, have you seen the movie Up?
yes.
With the dog with the sees
Yeah.
a squirrel when
Yep.
we hear the train horn or we see the train we're like boom.
Yep. We're like squirrels chasing dogs chasing a squirrel.
Yep.
So I my last two houses. Unfortunately, the house where I'm at now is nowhere near a railroad. But not that I didn't try, but unfortunately, my wife gets more votes than I do when it comes to buying a house. But our last two houses were my last house was 100 yards from the tracks. I could go out to the front yard and see the train go by. My apartment that I had before that was on the third floor overlooking the railroad tracks. All I had to do was this to see the train. So that was great. So you did catch the 4001 today. We mentioned that earlier.
Mhm.
Charlie says he wishes he could hear the CSX trains that come through his town. Joe says he'd take the airbags out of his car. He thinks they're dangerous. No, you don't want to do that, Joe. Airbags, they might be a pain, but they are a lifesaver. Believe me, being on the police department for a long time and being on the fire department before that, airbags save lives. So it's like taking the seatbelts out of your car. There's no point. And yeah, there are no airbags on school buses, and there's a reason for that. And then there's a reason why there's no seatbelts on school buses either, except for the driver. But you'll notice they've got very high padded seats. So there's good reasons for that, and that's kind of off topic here, but yeah, there are the reasons for that. So Jay Taylor's checking in. Dave mentions for the audio, feed it through your car radio.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of cars these days have an auxiliary audio input, and it's a standard stereo jack, just like a headphone jack. And you get a male-to-male stereo cable. You probably got, if you got a computer in the last 20 years, you probably have a couple of these in a drawer someplace. They're typically a wire with two male stereo plugs on them. They're either green or pink colored. And you plug one end in the headphone jack of the radio and one end into the auxiliary jack on your car, and the audio from your scanner will come out your car stereo speakers when you set the entertainment system to auxiliary. So
the only issue with that, you have to get some of your passengers to be on board with that.
Yeah,
well, that can be a little tricky. Well, your passenger,
my passenger, yeah, she wouldn't care.
She wouldn't know the difference. Oh,
yeah.
Unless. Well, I know your passenger occasionally will, in the past when she was in the market, she would turn the radio on just to see the score of the game. She wasn't able to.
Yeah,
she wasn't able to hear it, but she was able to keep tabs, which is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. So my wife is deaf, and so she's obviously never going to listen to the radio. But when we were looking for a new car for her, she asked to get the XM radio in her car, her new car. And I'm like, why? Why would you spend $600 to get an XM radio in your car? And she said, because I can see the scores of the baseball game. And I was like, kidneys, yeah.
Yeah. She's, she's thinking about that, because she knows she can see it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Gene's checking in. He bought a scanner from me a week or so ago. So thank you, Gene. Joe likes your setup.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Dave mentions that it'll kill if you turn off the replay. Does it kill the recording? Yeah, that's the whole idea. Mm-hmm. So you want, in order to reduce the possibility of your SD card being corrupted on a zip code type scanner, turn off the recording or replay functions. If you're not using that feature, then turn it off. It's going to reduce the ability or the possibility of the SD card getting corrupted by data being written, and then when you kill the power, it gets stopped in midstream. So if you don't use that function, turn it off. If you do use that function, leave it on, but remember to turn the radio off with the knob before you turn the power off on the radio. And you notice on that 536, when I turned it off, it took a couple seconds for that light to go away.
It's writing. It's writing whatever settings that were set, when it was turned on and up to this point.
Absolutely. So, and if you turn off the replay function, you're less likely to have an SD card corruption by killing the power. And like I say, I've had mine in the car for years, and I've not had a card corruption because I've turned off the replay. Tony's checking in. Howdy. And Carmen bought a couple antennas from that Solid Signal place that you bought your rack from. So
rack, the mount for the 996. That was a good price.
Yeah, absolutely. So Joe likes my setup too. So thank you, sir. Dave Fuller wants to create a box for either his 536 or his SDS 200. Basically about 3 or 4 radios and a tablet, and on the sides for a 436 or an SDS. So if you know anybody who's into woodworking or metalworking, they can create a box. Depending on the type of vehicle you've got, you might be able to find a console to fit it. If you've got a sedan with bucket seats and you don't have the center console, or you have a removable center console, you might be able to find a Giotto desk or some of those other manufacturers. Look for police supply places that have those type of center consoles. Like I said, but if you're into metalworking or woodworking, you might be able to make something like that and set up exactly the way you want it.
I'm no expert when it comes to the woodworking. I mean, basically, I put that together with a circular saw and
Yeah.
did a lot of measurements, and then I studied it out. You know what I wanted to do, and then it just all came together.
Yeah, Havis is the other name. Thank you, Gene, and Steve. Both came up with that. So yeah, Havis is the one I was trying to think of. But yeah, like I say, Jonathan's not a particularly good woodworker, but he did a great job with his. So get creative. You might have to take a couple shots at it to make it work.
Yeah, measure twice, cut once. You
Yep.
want to make sure that you do, measure that twice. The great thing about, painting the box is you can cover up all of your markings. Let's say you marked it for whatever reason, you'll be able to cover that up with paint. And then, the other thing too, if you get creative with it and you have a small budget, you can definitely look at Lowe's or Home Depot or any of those home improvement stores and see what's out there and
Yeah.
get creative with it. I mean, think outside
Yeah.
the box, literally.
Right. And yeah, think outside the box when you're making your box.
Yeah.
And remember with the paint, try to find a paint that matches or contrasts well with your vehicle. So I was going to have mine done in black because that would look good with the black carpeting on my vehicle. You went with that off
The gray,
gray.
the gray
Yeah.
color. Because I have a lot of dials and so on that are silver. So
Yeah.
there's black, there's that silver color. So I went with the gray, and it looks really cool. I
Yeah.
have the faceplate, which is black. The radio has some black coloring in it, and that speaker with the Bearcat claw embedded into it looks really cool. And then the
Yeah.
other thing too with that speaker, with the powered speaker, you have an indicator light that comes on when the speaker has audio
Mhm.
going through it, so it lights up at night with red, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, he did a nice job with that. I'm very impressed with it. So people don't know that box was white, but it just got dirty because Jonathan's got dirty hands, and that's why it looks
No,
gray.
no.
All right, just kidding, my friend, just kidding. So Gene mentions asking if we're worried about theft when we're talking about our radios in the vehicles, and we talked about that a little bit. Cover your radios, bring them in at night, park in the garage, park in a well-lit area, park near the where the night clerk can see your vehicle. Those are things you can do to prevent theft from your vehicle with or without radios. Dave asked if my mount was for a van or a truck. My vehicle was a Honda Pilot. I'm sorry, a Honda Odyssey. And we were at the auto show a couple years ago, and my wife again, she saw that, and I wasn't even looking. I was looking at pickup trucks, and she happened to look in the Pilot or in the Odyssey, and she saw that. She said, "That'd be a great spot to put your radios." So I looked at it, and on the way home from the auto show, we stopped at the Honda dealer, and the next day we ended up with the new Odyssey. So yeah, uh, it number one, it pays to have a wife who looks out for you. And number two, that particular vehicle was perfect for me because I could put 3 radios right there in there without having to take apart the whole car. So my buddy Bob says he would know Will's car anywhere. Bob and Will and I have been friends with each other for 30 something years, and Bob and I are basically neighbors now. So yeah, he's been in Will's car many times too. So yep, it sticks out.
The thing now, the vehicle is now world famous now because it's been seen on the scanner, guys. So a lot of people are going to know, is that Will's car?
That's right. Yep. So yep, squirrel. When we were talking about the train, all of a sudden, you were doing this when there was a horn going by. Yep, squirrel. Yeah. Tim thinks that installs were nice. Ken says if he owns a truck, he'd have a mobile setup in there. His Hyundai doesn't work very well for a mobile setup. So I was in a position where I was ready to buy a new vehicle anyway, and I happened to find one that worked really well with the radio, and it happened to be a car that I really liked. and I'll probably keep this car. I usually get a new car every 2 or 3 years. I'll keep this car for 5 or 10 years. I have no reason to get rid of it now because I've got it. It's just ideal for my radios. And now that I work from home, the thing sits in the garage 6 days a week, and I go out on Sundays. Like the little lady who only drives to church on Sundays. Yeah, go to the grocery store twice a week and Flagstaff twice a month. So where I got lost there. There we are. Window mounts would work. So we were talking about antennas, and this comment came out just before we talked about that window mount antenna. So those are good. Dale gave us his antenna layout. Chris gave us his show idea. And so Gene has got a BCT-15X between the center console and the bucket seat. So that's not a bad place to mount a radio if you don't have to diddle with the buttons a lot. If you're going to put the radio in and you're going to turn it on and you're going to listen to it and you're not going to be diddling around with the buttons or the display, that's a great thing. And I've done that. The only problem with that is it's kind of hard to see the radio. So you got to stop and get off the road and stop so that you can go down and twiddle the dials. So, but that's a great spot to put it. You might have to use an outside speaker if it blocks your speaker. Dave asks, will the new desktop scanner mount hold a Realm 200?
Yeah,
I think so.
There's slight differences in size a bit. The Realm 200.
I remember that. I think it does.
I wanted one of those, a Realm 200.
Yeah, my buddy Matt had one. He loved it.
Yeah,
I think it will, because if I recall, that radio was not much different in size than like a 396.
Yeah, I mean yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean
yeah, as long as the back is flat, you'll be fine.
What's the the Realm? Yeah, the Realm 200, the portable was.
Yeah, the MS 200. Yeah,
that was had one of those. The one I was thinking of was the mobile.
Oh yeah, that was the MS 100. I think was. I don't remember which was which, but the portable was
kind of the opposite number wise, isn't it?
Yeah,
because usually the lower number is the portable.
The handheld. Yeah,
it was kind of the opposite, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, but they were really sensitive receivers, especially on VHF. So my buddy Matt had one. I assume he still does. He's the kind of guy that he buys a radio, and if he likes it, he keeps it forever. So
yeah, I would have loved to have one of those, the mobile desktop ones.
Yeah. They were really sensitive, but they weren't particularly selective, which was not such a big deal, 25, 30 years ago when they first came out. So LV2RYD has got a leased pickup truck, and he uses an 18-inch adjustable seat bolt mount with his HP Home Patrol 2 scanner. It works really well. So those seat bolt mounts, basically you take one of the bolts out from that holds your seat to the floor of the car, and it's got a part that mounts on there, and then you just take that bolt and tighten it back down onto it. Or some of them, there's enough thread sticking up where you can put something on there and then tighten a bolt on it. And then it has a vertical part that comes up, and then something to mount the radio.
If you're able to, we would love to see a photo of that to be able to show it. Just email the scannerguys@gmail.com, and then in an upcoming show, we could show what that looks like, because I think that's definitely a visual. You would think that's definitely a visual thing, huh, Rich?
Yeah, absolutely. So that would be a great picture. So please send us that picture. You send the picture to us at thescannerguys@gmail.com. So let's see here. Steve says he hopes you're enjoying your stay there in PA.
Yes, I'm here until Sunday.
I'm a
little exhausted today. I started my day at 3:00 in the morning, and then, of course, we have this broadcast tonight. So, I'll be eventually probably going to bed, shortly after.
All right. So if Jonathan falls asleep while we're talking,
I won't fall asleep. I'm really excited to be on here tonight.
Let's see here. Did you bring your RE20? Rob?
No. So I ended up returning that microphone that I had during that broadcast, Carmen, just because I listened to the way it sounded and I wasn't pleased with it. The
Mhm.
RE20, I was thinking, I know I'm not going to get that RE20 sound,
Right.
you know, but I was able to find B&H had a microphone that was affordable. It's a CAD audio microphone, and it's the U49 model, which I can show you right here. It's a great portable microphone, and it's
It's
made
extremely directional. I can tell you that right now.
yeah, it's made really well. Um, so and they've been making microphones for years, and I said, all right, I'm going to give them a shot. It's a USB microphone.
Mhm.
It was $39. I need, Rich and we need something when we're on the road to be able to use something in a
Yeah.
mobile studio setting, which I'm in right now. And that is awesome that you were thinking that they had the RE20. So that kind of impresses me that, the audio is pretty darn near close.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you got really close up to it, it was much louder. So that's and then when you moved it from side to side, you can tell the difference. So it's extremely directional. And that
Yes.
might be a setting on the mic too, where you can go wide or narrow on
Yeah.
directionality.
But this is an extremely directional microphone. They use this
Yeah.
microphone a lot for people that are playing a guitar that don't have a spot for an amp.
Yeah.
This is typically what this microphone is used for, but you can use it for voice. But
Mhm.
yeah, a little bit
Sounds
dorky.
great.
Yeah. So, I'm excited about that as well. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, my shirt. Yeah, I escapes me now. I just recently purchased this. I can't think of the name of the company, but it's based right here, right in North Carolina.
Yeah. You want
And
to stand up a little bit so they can see your shirt?
yeah, right
All
here.
right. There you go. Area Lackawanna.
Yeah,
We have another Pennsylvania railroad. So, yep. We know you dig that. So, that was one of the other Conrail members. So Donnie gives us a great hint on the aircraft frequency. If you listen to the air traffic controller and he says something like 126.57, the actual frequency that he's talking about would be 126.575. Same thing if he said 52, it would be 525. Aircraft frequencies are 25 kilohertz apart in the U.S. So if they give just two digits and the last digit is a 7 or a 2, just assume the 5 after it. So that's a great hint. So
yeah. 996P2, you can do that with the RH96. You need to do some customization, which there is some posts on Radio Reference, and there's a gentleman that does do that, right, Rich?
Yep. Yeah, I
Uh,
helped them out with that project, and it's basically a USB to serial converter, and then there's a chip inside there that converts the radio ID from anything to 996XT. So you can plug it into a 325, 996P2, or other radio, and it converts it over. And it works fine with the 996P2. I've used that, but you have to build it yourself.
yeah, and as for the remote head for the 200, that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is probably the number one request that we get in the Scanner Dream accessories
Hmm.
thing. So yeah, I
And
would love to have it.
this with Gene, this was another pet peeve of ours.
Yeah.
There's kind of there was a couple of things with that. The jack placement was kind of strange. I mean, we tried to get them to flip the jack
Yeah.
because it was the pin that holds the jack in is
Hmm.
abutted against the knob. So
Yeah.
if you've done anything with this, Gene, you know that it's a bit of a beast to be able to undo the Ethernet port. When you have a cable in there. So yeah, there was a couple of things when we were
Yeah.
talking to the powers to be. Can we flip that? And they're like, no, we can't. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. Yes,
I
one of
have
the
a
letter.
yeah, I have a letter opener that I keep in my desk, and I had to use that to take the Ethernet port out. Be very careful so you don't damage radio. But yeah,
or
that's
or
boring.
stab yourself in the process.
Been there, done that. So yeah, that was, and yeah, and the other option, obviously, it would be much better if we put it on the back of the radio. But unfortunately, by the time we got it, that part of the engineering was already concluded. So as far as the bottle count, I am on bottle number 3. So I have 2.5 bottles down, and I have one more bottle here. So I think I won't go over 4 because I don't have that many here. So
And for me, I didn't grab water before, so I'm a little bit hoarse. So after the broadcast is done, I'm going to grab something to drink. That's for sure.
there you go. All righty, have a soda on me, bud. Okay, so Chris asks, when airplanes go from the U.S. to the U.K., do they use the same frequencies? And do
Ooh,
they
good
also use
question.
AM? Yeah, absolutely, Chris. They do. So the aviation band is the same frequency band the entire world. So the same tower channel could be used in Chicago, in Detroit, in New York, in London, in Moscow. And it's all, and aircraft all have the frequencies. If you're going international, you have to have the 8.33 spacing because in Europe they do use some different channel spacing, but international flights do have those radios in them. But planes can come here from other countries and still operate on the civilian aircraft band anywhere in the world. So yeah, those are nationwide. And then Carmen mentions that there are HF frequencies that they use when they're over the oceans and they're out of range of the VHF. So if you've ever flown across the North Atlantic, like going to London or something like that, likely they use AM shortwave frequencies. Nowadays, a lot of that stuff is switched over to satellite, but there are still HF frequencies in use. And you can also hear those for thousands of miles sometimes.
That's awesome.
Donnie used to have a Bearcat 220. We were talking about that. I bought mine up in Canada. So Garrett says you can't wait till somebody does a scanner capable of multi VCO with playback. I'm thinking he's probably talking multiple VFO and recording. AOR announced a radio a while back, and as far as I know, it's nowhere near being available. It's called the AR7400, and basically it was a 4 receiver aircraft receiver head, and you could put up to 4 frequencies into it in the civil or military aircraft band and receive all 4 at the same time with separate speakers built into the radio, or separate audio amps anyway, built into this radio. And I think it had an SD card slot so you could do recording off of it as well. So that, if they ever do actually come out with that radio, that might be something to be that can consider and be a great thing. But unfortunately, that would only work for aircraft frequencies. Bob writes that the Arizona Highway Patrol is starting to switch over to the new digital system. Yeah, that is true in the Phoenix area. And as they build that system out, I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't expand. I think they're also using it in Yuma and some of the other areas around the state. But at least between Phoenix and Flagstaff, they're still on UHF analog. Jonathan, what do you think about the Virginia State Police digital system?
It sounded pretty good. The great thing about the whole entire ride, this is the first time I had, a 536 back in the vehicle. And I really didn't hear any hiccuping or that blah, 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 digital noise sound. Everything sounded relatively good. I noticed the digital audio sounded really good with the Virginian system, because as you know, traveling from North Carolina into Virginia and heading north, it's a pretty big state. So you're spending a lot
Yeah.
of time there. It was earlier in the morning when I was traveling through there. It wasn't quite that busy, but the radio transmissions was able to hear seemed to be relatively clear. So I didn't see any issues with it. I would have liked to be able to hear it when it was a lot busier to see,
Yeah.
if I did hear any hiccuping or any things that missed communication just because of reception issues, but it sounded pretty good.
Well, maybe on the trip back you'll be able to hear some more of it. Just hope they're not talking about you.
No, I don't want them to be talking about me. It looks like Kenneth mentions in a comment below that they're looking to want to go to phase 2, so that'll give them more capability with the system by doing that. And then, of course, that may require a little bit more coverage. So if they're not having any coverage issues now, it's just basically filling in sites, to be able to increase capacity, increase reception.
Yeah. So when you go to phase 2, basically you double the capacity of the system.
Mm-hmm.
The downside is you have to reprogram or replace all the radios in the system. So it's they don't do that kind of thing lightly, but they do it. So so there's a couple of different brands. A couple of our viewers mentioned Jado Desk. Talking about consoles for the car. Jado Desk, Troy, Havis, or Gamber Johnson. So I've got both Jado Desk and Troy faceplates on my radio rack here that I've adopted for that. Those are actually intended to be used in mobile consoles, but they work really well there, obviously. So Todd asks if anybody has the older Kenwood TK790Hs. He's got has one of those programmed for 2 meters. So the Kenwood mobile radios are remarkably well built, and they work really well for GMRS, VHF commercial, but they can also be programmed into the ham bands, both the VHF ones and the UHF ones. I've got a couple of the TK880s, and they work really well, and I really like them. So Les thinks both of our setups are nice. Dave uses an FM low power transmitter for his setup. So you can buy these little low power FM transmitters that plug into the headphone jack. They've also got them for Bluetooth, and they will then transmit the audio from your iPod or music device, or in our case, scanners, out either onto Bluetooth or onto an FM frequency like 88.1 or 87.9 or something like that. So those work actually very well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I had, for 13 years, I had a web radio station.
Mm-hmm.
And what I had was one of those low power little transmitters, and I would be able to listen to my web radio station over the air broadcast on any of the radios in the house. And that was pretty cool to be able to have it, a web radio station transmitting over the air on a very, very low powered transmitter.
Back in the day, when I got my first XM radio, it was an outboard XM radio, one of these little things like this you mount in the vehicle, and it connected to your car stereo by transmitting on an FM channel. And usually they transmit on 87.9. Well, I had one of those, and I turned the XM off, but I didn't turn the stereo down. And all of a sudden, I started hearing music coming on it, and it's XM radio. And I said, wait a minute, I got my radio off. And I looked down the car next to me. The guy's got the exact same XM radio in his car, and they're rocking to the tunes, and I'm listening to whatever tunes he's got going in his car. Oh, that was fun. My wife thought I was nuts, but she's probably right. Couple of late check-ins. Joe's a late check-in from Southern California desert. And let's see here. What else? So Chris writes, a good place to mount a remote head in a 2009 Jeep Wrangler. He was thinking about taking the net down just to in front of the stick shift, but it's very tight there. So remote heads are a lot easier to place in the vehicle, obviously because they're much smaller than the entire radio. But what I did on every time I buy a car is I put the heads or the radios in the car, and as I'm driving or as my wife is driving and I'm sitting in the car, I can kind of place them in different spots to find a good spot. If I'm stopping at a stoplight, I can take the remote head and say if I like it there, if I like it here, something. So that's a good thing to do for a week or two before you actually mount the stuff.
With the Jeep Wrangler, you have those roll bars, and depending on if you take the hard shell or soft shell off, you
Yeah.
may be able to do something with the roll bar. You know, a lot of truckers will have their radios up above. You know, you may have an option, possibly. I don't think there's a. I haven't looked at the newer Wranglers. No, you're not going to have it in the front. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
But
You know, like you can
yeah,
get creative with it. I'm
yeah.
sure. And yet again, it's just looking at it from a different perspective. You're just trying to say, okay, so where's it going to visually be appealing?
Well, roll bars are a good place to mount your speakers too, as long as you're not
Yes.
going to bash your head on them.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So, Dave writes that the aviation frequencies are readily available via the internet. So, yeah, a lot of places will stream their stream control towers or air traffic control frequencies. That's a very popular thing. And it's neat to be able to listen to airports that are 1,000 miles away. Here's a question from you. Do you know when the state police in Mass are going to go to phase 2?
That I don't know. That's going to be an interesting thing to. The system has phase two capability. What I'm guessing is they're rolling out this system. I'm not too sure why they're having the some of the agencies are phase two, some of them are phase one.
Yeah.
I know Worcester, I believe is phase two, and I believe I have to look at that system again, but I think Cambridge is
Yeah.
possibly phase two, but the state police are still phase one. I mean, this is a brand new system, so I'm
Right.
not too sure why the thought process behind it. I haven't. When I was in Massachusetts, I was privy to a little bit more conversation with people that were um, inside that knew a little bit more.
Yeah.
One of my sources, I'll have to, when I get to talk to him, I'll have to see if he knows anything that's going on the next time I talk to him.
Well, we had the same thing in Illinois. The Starcom system started off as phase 1, and then they started converting some of the metro areas, the Chicago area, Metro East area down by St. Louis, into phase 2. And now all the sites are phase 2 capable, but the phase 2 operations are mostly restricted to suburban and county users because the state police doesn't, they've got phase 1 only radios in their vehicles and their portables. For the most part, so they would have to replace all their radios in order to go to phase 2, and it just isn't a real priority for the state police right now to go out and buy all new radios only 10 years after they, or 15 years after they bought the old ones. So Carmen asks, how's the foliage on the curve?
I haven't been out to the curve as of yet, so basically I made my way towards where we're staying, and then we did a little bit of rail fanning west of the curve, and the foliage looks pretty good. I was waiting for a couple of eastbounds, and I was able to frame a couple of shots with it coming around a curve around the spot where I was at, and I was able to get some foliage shots with the locomotive. I was able to post those on the Train Aficionado Facebook page.
So what's the color situation out there right now?
I mean, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of color, to it. I think this is probably definitely going to be a good weekend for photos. It was a lot of wind today. I'm not too sure why it was so windy. But we just, when we got out of the car, it's like, whoa, boy, we had, a lot of wind there. And then, of course, it kind of made it harder to, hear that, usually a lot of times you can hear the trains coming from a distance. Kind of was a little bit more of a struggle. And then, and then we could say, there comes one.
So, Donnie writes that the state police system in Virginia hiccups all the time, or at least sometimes anyway. So listen for that while you're on the way. Dave says that's a great idea. He's got a great idea. Get a heads-up display for the radio. Boy, that would be a fantastic seller. So that you could have the display right there on the dashboard. I don't know how practical that would be because I'd be spending too much time watching the display instead of scanning for stuff on the sides. But
Yes.
I think that'd be kind of distracting. I've seen cars with the heads-up displays for their speedometers, and it's kind of weird to drive up alongside a guy that's got one of those, and you can see, hey, you're going 46 miles an hour, and you can see his speedometer on his windshield from your cars.
That's pretty neat.
So,
Well, go ahead.
Ken asks if you're on the Norfolk Southern line. And
Yes, I'm at the Norfolk Southern line, the Pittsburgh section of it. Awesome rail fanning here. I have on the Train Aficionado page, website, I should say, I have a whole breakdown of all the places you can rail fan with mileposts and everything. So if you are a rail fan, check out trainaficionado.com and our trackside guides.
Absolutely. So there is a rumor that the Virginia State Police might go full encryption. Boy, I hope that doesn't happen.
Well, the thing with that is going to create more, like Donnie was mentioning about the hiccuping. With the encryption, that's going to add even more issues. So they may try to do that and see that the system deteriorates more.
Yeah.
And may go back to it, because if it's still hiccuping and they turn on encryption, it's going to create even more issues, because the radio system's not only going to decode digital, it's also going to decode encryption.
And it affects the voice quality too. So
yeah.
Gene reports that Cambridge is phase 2. He's from that area.
No, that's
Very
good.
Good
so
call.
The memory serves me right. So it is phase 2.
Cool. And Ken says the Department of Wildlife Resources, that's another thing to listen to. So that's a lot of fun to listen to that stuff there. So
yeah, there's some interesting things. Speaking to a lot of the Massachusetts guys, they purchased some 15Xs from us just because of the service search capability.
Yeah.
You got people using marine radios, the family band radios. What they're doing with them is one person is hunting and the other person's playing lookout.
Yeah, spotters.
So,
I get that here a lot. There was a mountain range about a half mile from my house, and they'll get a spotter up on the top of the hill, and there'll be the hunter down in the valley below, and they use FRS radios a lot. And Ken likes that they're up in the Norfolk Southern. He watches the camera on the virtual railfan. So if you don't know what virtual railfan is, go to Virtual Railfan's YouTube page. They have a bunch of free cameras that you can watch, and I watch them all the time. I got the Flagstaff one going on almost all the time when I'm at home, and then I'll have Horseshoe Curve on the other screen. And it's a great way to go rail fanning without having to leave the house.
That's for sure. And it's a great way to be able to see how much activity there is. So if you plan on going there in person, you'll get to know the patterns where certain times of the day there's a lot more volume. And so okay, I'm going to plan my day. I'm definitely going to try to be trackside in between these hours.
Oh, yeah. And you never know when you're going to catch something neat. Today I was watching a camera I was watching the Flagstaff camera this morning, and one of the new BNSF units with the heralds from all their predecessor railroads went through. It's their version of the Heritage unit, and it's the first time I'd seen one of those on anywhere except for a magazine picture. So, and I've seen a lot of the Heritage units going through Horseshoe Curve. I still have not seen one of those live and in person. So.
Yeah, and the Pennsylvania one, a lot of you that may watch our other program on Train Aficionado or heard me in the past has done it again, skunked me again. Basically went through here heading eastbound 12 hours prior to when I was getting here. So hopefully I'll get it heading west, but it was leading heading east, so more than likely it will be trailing heading west. So granted, I don't, at this point, whether it's leading or not, I just want to get a photo of it.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that every rail fan has heard and hates to hear it is, "Oh, you should have been here an hour ago." When the steam
Well,
train went through, or the passenger special went through, or the Heritage unit went through. Yeah.
so we were today we were rail fanning um, north of not north but west of where Vito's is
Yeah. Crescent.
Crescent and we caught the 4001 and the Warbash, and then we caught several other trains going by, and then two guys pulled in, and then it just got quiet. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, it's that crazy moment when new people come in and it just gets quiet for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I didn't say, hey, you should have been here an hour ago. I did not pull that one. No, I didn't.
Oh yeah. Well, the times that I've said that, it's really because they should have been here an hour ago. They would have caught that.
And
But
they
I've
should have.
heard, yeah, but I've heard that so many times. And in
So
fact, at Horseshoe Curve, the first time I went to Horseshoe Curve, there was an officer car special. Conrail was running the E unit with an officer car special, and it went through there about 2 hours before I got there.
and I almost got blocked. I had one heading east and one heading west, and the Warbash was rounding the corner, and I had one heading west, and the Warbash was heading east, and I was like, I had my camera zoomed all the way out so I could get it coming around the curve, and then I got a pretty cool shot of the meet. They basically met behind me, which was nice, so I was able to continue to get photos as it was coming closer to me, and I was like, boy, that was perfect timing. Like if I was down somewhere else, I would have got blocked, and that stinks. To be blocked.
Yeah. There's a great YouTube video from England. Some guys went to catch the Harry Potter special steam train.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
They're waiting all day long because the train was late, and it's finally coming. They get a glimpse of it. And then there on the other track, here comes a passenger train. Zoom, 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 as the Harry Potter train goes by them, and they miss it. They've been there all day long. Oh man, I felt so sorry for those guys.
Yeah, that's the pains of multi track main lines.
Absolutely. So Steve writes, imagine using a 12-inch display on the new pickup truck's radio system. So I've got that too. I've got the navigation display in my vehicle. I'd love to be able to, project my scanner onto that. That would be cool. So Mike is in Mississauga. He's one of our regulars. He finally sent his 436 because the battery, the memory battery has been failing. So if you've got a 436 or a 536, and your display is really dim, or the memory battery won't hold the time and date settings, and you get that message, reset your time and date, Uniden will fix that for free. I got these two radios used, and they're 7 years old, and I sent them into Uniden. They fixed them for free. I got them back within 2 weeks. So that is still covered under an extended warranty for that. So if you have that problem, send them in now before it's too late. But it's been 7 years, and they're still fixing those. So
wow,
kudos to Uniden for that. So Ken likes watching the BNSF line in Fort Madison, Iowa, and there's another one in Missouri. I think it's La Plata, Missouri. I've watched those train cams a lot. I like the one in Fort Madison. I've rail fanned that area many times, and I've got some friends who live in that area. So Donnie says the hunters on the FRS probably have PL tones, so they think nobody else can hear them.
They got a
private line. Yeah,
where it's not really private.
Yep. So yeah, that's fun. They people think that private line makes the channel private. It doesn't.
No, it's not what it means. It's not what it says is not what it means.
Absolutely. All right. So another Ontario Police Department went to encryption. The Waterloo Regional Police. The regions in Ontario are like counties in the U.S. They're kind of they're just that they're regions. and they're kind of combined the city and the counties into a single government agency. So the Waterloo Regional Police went from their old EAC system to a new P25 Phase 2 system, and somebody already stole a couple of the new radios. So the neat thing about that is they can shut those radios down. We lost one of our APXs once, and I called the administrator, and he shut the radio down. And when the radio popped up, it got underneath the seat of a car. And when it popped up about 6 months later, I called the radio administrator and turned it back on.
That's cool.
Joe asks us if either of us have ever been to Tehachapi Loop in California.
Is that the cam that we were talking about?
Yeah, there's a camera on the loop. Yeah,
that looks interesting. I haven't been. Have you, Rich?
I've been there, but it's been years, and it's really funny because I only live a couple hundred miles away, so I could be there tomorrow morning if I wanted to. But
so, is there a viewing area that kind of gives you a good overview, or is it too much land to kind of watch?
You can find a spot where you can get some views. You're going to have to do a little bit of hiking, and there are critters in the area, so you have to be kind of be careful of that. So, but yeah, there are spots where you can spot and see the stuff, but the camera is your best bet.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me. It looks like a large area, you know, for the whole entire loop. Yeah,
and it's in the California hills, so you can find some elevated spots if you're careful. And Mike says it's great that Yudin is covering that. He didn't know that, so kudos to you. So it saved you some money on the repair. And Dale reminds us the name of the feature to turn off those APXs is inhibit. Yeah, absolutely. So the administrator of the radio system can inhibit or basically deaden or create paperweights out of these radios. If you report them as stolen or lost, they will turn them off because you don't want people to hear your encrypted traffic, or you don't want them to be able to use these radios that they stole. So, and they can also, restore them as well. So. And like Mike says, somebody's got a couple paperweights.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the end of our comment section tonight. We appreciate each and every comment. We will read every comment. We don't always mention everyone, but we will read every comment that we get.
All right, so we'll wrap up things right now. So we want to remind you of definitely, like if you had some questions and you wasn't able to ask it tonight, or you wanted more of an answer to the question, you can certainly email us at support@scannermaster.com. You can give us a call at 1-800-722-6637 in between the hours of 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And as always, supporting our sponsor is definitely key to keep us on the air as well. So you can shop Scanner Master 24/7 at scannermaster.com. And we're always looking for your stupid scanner tricks or your shack photos. We had some really great ones of mobile shacks tonight. Keep those coming. We love seeing those. I mean, it's a lot of fun to be able to see what you guys are doing with your scanner, especially, with your no matter what size shack it is, whether it's one scanner or a bunch of scanners, or even if it's a mix of some of your two-way radios and scanners, we would love to see those. Even your antenna setups, as we saw several antenna farms tonight. You can email those, thescannerguys@gmail.com. That's thescannerguys@gmail.com. Next week's broadcast, I'm really excited about this. Rich, I know you are too. We're going to be talking to Lindsey Blanton of Radio Reference and Broadcastify. He's going to be joining us at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. We're going to talk about Radio Reference, Broadcastify, how Lindsey got into this hobby, and how, something that he loves and enjoys turned into his everyday job. I mean, isn't that the coolest thing that, your hobby becomes, your career?
Oh, gee, you and I could identify to that,
Yeah, that's for sure. So make sure you tune in 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. It's going to be right here on YouTube. So if you haven't already and you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate that. And as always, you can watch, if you're not able to watch it live, you can certainly watch it on our YouTube channel later on when you have time.
Absolutely.
Now, I already mentioned this, but I'm going to remind you again. Hit that subscribe button. Do it right now.
Do it now.
And don't forget, Train Aficionado Live with Jonathan Higgins, which is me, and Rich. Our regular broadcast, our next broadcast, as I should say, is Monday, November. Is that a typo?
November. It's the first Monday in November. So
the first Monday of November should be the 2nd, because voting is on the 3rd.
That's
so
right.
That is a typo. So sorry about that. That's a typo.
Let me erase that on the screen here.
Okay, so that'll be the 2nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. You can subscribe to our channel at trainaficionado.com. Make sure you do that as well. And we may have a special show this Friday. We're seeing how things are working. I'm in this mobile studio, and I had to do some interesting things to be able to get this broadcast tonight because there was some interesting things where we're staying. So we'll see what happens with that. So keep tuned in to the Train Aficionado social media. We'll definitely announce that if we're going to make a go of it on Friday. Hey, and make sure, as I just mentioned, follow, like, and subscribe to all of the Train Aficionado social media on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Especially if you're into trains from now until Sunday, hopefully, I'll be posting photos. So sharing everything that I've been able to see. I may do a couple of short little videos of trains going by or even me talking trackside. So definitely follow, like, and subscribe to our social media there. All right. Last but not least, I mentioned about the Train Aficionado social media. You want to make sure you like our sponsor, Scanner Master. Do that. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. They're on those social medias. Make sure you follow them at Scanner Master Co. And then don't forget about us here, the Scanner Guys. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. So make sure you follow our social media and definitely hit that subscribe button right now. If you made it this far in the broadcast, congratulations. If you're watching us on the replay, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate every one of you, that whether you watch the live show or you're watching it in the replay.
Fantastic. So in case you don't know sign language, I was just signing what he was saying there. So yeah, please make sure that you subscribe to all our social media, and we appreciate everybody who's watched tonight, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, there's going to be some good shows coming up. I really think, October and November and December, as we're starting to slowly get into that. Well, not for you, Rich, because you're actually going to enjoy the outside.
Yeah.
For some other areas, it's kind of hibernation mode of being able to be in home a little bit more. So
we're coming out of hibernation mode now, and you're going into it.
Yes. For me, I'm actually coming out of it because it's been warm and I love the cooler weather. But especially to our friends in the Northeast and the Midwest, where they start getting snow and all that great stuff, the cold weather.
Yeah, we called the kids on FaceTime from who are still in the Chicago area, and we were in the swimming pool FaceTiming to the kids in Chicago. It was 54 degrees and raining. They were not happy.
Yes, I'm sure they weren't. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Is there anything else we should add? Oh, yeah. Make sure you check out those new products that we mentioned. Those are some really cool stuff. You can get that on the website, scannermaster.com. And if you do purchase any products, tell them that the Scanner Guys sent you. It does help us.
Absolutely. Hey, you know what? We got one more product, which I forgot to mention earlier, and I didn't have a picture of it. This is if you've got a 996 or a BCT 15, any version of the 996 or BCT 15, we have now this USB cable that plugs into the serial port on the back of the radio. So if you're not using the GPS, you can use this. I've got these in my cabinet here, so I don't have the cables come out the front. They work great. They're in the PC cable section at Scanner Master, and they're the USB cable for the BCT 15 and 996 series, and it uses serial port, much stronger connection than the little port on the front of the radio, and it works on the 996T, XT, and P2, as well as the BCT 15 and 15X. And it's a standard USB cable, works great in any version of Windows.
And the good thing about that as well, if you're hosting a broadcastified feed, like I was hosting a broadcastified feed for the Northeast Corridor and some of the lines that interchange there, and you could send through the software the alpha tag display. Yeah. That's perfect. Plug the cable in the back. You don't have to worry about it getting loose. Yeah. And it's out of sight, out of mind, because it's in the back of the radio.
Right. And it's got the built-in serial to USB converter, so it works great. It even has some activity lights, so you can see the flashing lights on the back of your radio if you want. So cool. And it's got the built-in modem adapter, so you don't need to have a special adapter in there. So it works great.
So hopefully next week we'll do a quick slide to remind you of that cool product. But we will catch you again next week, and I think that's it.
That's it.
All right. Well, I'm Jonathan Higgins.
And I'm Rich Carlson.
We'll catch you again next week, if not on Friday. So talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.